is traversing the strange world with peace and Toodles.
I like that intro more and more every time I hear it.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you. Wait, what if they're not listening in the morning?
That's when we're recording it.
What if they're listening at like 11 at night at the gym?
Well,
Do you think somebody would listen to us?
good
at the
morning,
gym?
good afternoon, good evening, good day.
And good night.
Today, we will be discussing top 10 conspiracy theories. We researched the top 10 most popular, most believed conspiracy theories. And me and Jonathan are going to rate them on a scale 1 to 10 in believability. Not like we're going to ask each other, not rate them together, but
Believability.
yeah. How likely we believe they were to have happened or happening.
By research, we took about 5 minutes to look up the short form stories of these things. So we compiled a list of 10 with some bonuses. And I like me some good conspiracy theories, so I know like the cliff notes of these things. But to go in depth, I think we could dedicate probably a whole episode to each individual one.
Oh, for sure. And we probably will in the future.
You think we will? You want to?
Oh, I'd definitely like to.
Yeah, let's get shadow banned already.
This podcast, it's all about traversing the strange ideas and
Yes.
whatnot that is in this world.
These are strange.
Yeah, we're going to
That's an
be
understatement.
discussing very much of the obscure. All right, so without further delay, number 1.
Number 1. Well, in no particular order. But the first one I thought of.
This isn't like number 1 most believed.
Well, this one probably is. Because
Alright.
it's been confessed to. It's been admitted. The documents have been released.
Drum roll.
The cat is out of the bag. JFK.
Oh, yeah. So, like what? That was like an outside job or an inside job?
The CIA, man, got some hits on this dude while he's rolling through that in his presidential motorcade.
Yes.
Shot to the brain. Shot to the heart.
You're too late.
You
Dumb.
give love
A bad name.
Yeah, so JFK, the story as it's propagated by our trustworthy media has always been rolling through the streets, some guy, actually I should know this dude's name.
Lee Harvey Oswald, right?
Yeah, I was like, my dad's middle name is Lee, so I couldn't even think of past my dad's name. Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald up on the grassy knoll took shots down towards JFK and splattered some gray matter around. But the conspiracy theories lied around first-hand witnesses, and with this alternate version of the video that's out there about it, the video apparently has a missing 8 to 10 seconds at the end of it where there's more shots fired.
Wasn't the video was originally released by a comedian? Do you remember his name? Joe Rogan talks about him all the time.
I bet he does. He knows every comedian out there.
But like when that footage was actually released to the public, it was like a documentary that a comedian did.
Well, that doesn't help credibility, does it?
No, but it was the real video. He just released it. I can't.
Oh, how'd this cracker get his hands on it?
I don't know. Oh, the name is right on the tip of my tongue. Keep going. I'm gonna look that up real quick.
Well, I feel like we're gonna be looking a lot of stuff up because, like I said, there's details to these stories that could go on for an entire episode individually, but we just are gonna try to just mention the cliff notes, like I said, of a bunch of popular ones. JFK had to be the best because recently, in the past, I don't even know. I remember when it came out, though. All of my conspiracy theory circles I keep eyeballs in were going crazy. The CIA admitted to it. after all the decades of denying it, denying their involvement, denying they had anything to do with it or knew anything about it, they finally admitted themselves, straight from the horse's mouth, that, yep, they're responsible. But it just so happens, that now that it's been 40-something odd years ago, who remembers it? Who's going to do anything to hold accountability for anything that happened? It's so far in the past, it's just a story in the history books to people in our generation, even the generation before us. It's like 9/11 for me and you.
Yeah,
we were so little, it's like, okay, what if, by the time we're 60,
I think they're waiting.
To it.
They're waiting till all the people who were involved in it are dead.
There's nobody to ask that saw it firsthand to get facts from. Once we're 60 and all the dudes that could actually remember it are 80 or dead, there's not much accountability.
9/11.
Yeah, as like an example of JFK.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe by the time we're retired, they come out with something. It's like, well, who cares at that point? That was so long ago. I was 6. All I remember from it was literally getting taken into one room in our school, the whole school, one giant room, and they rolled in one of the, because that's my generation, they rolled in that TV on a cart with the rabbit ears and the VHS player, parked it next to the overhead projector, and we just watched the news, and we just watched the planes come and knock down some Jenga towers,
How old were you when they did that?
I was 6.
So they were like, hey, kids, come here. We're going to show you some people dying.
I mean, it was the news. It wasn't gory.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they just let us know what happened, which I guess that's a perfect segue into the next one, which is 9/11.
Real quick, though.
Oh,
real quick. On a scale of 1 to 10 in believability.
I would give this one the only one that's a 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah, for
because
sure.
it's been confessed to.
I think anything that's going to be like on this list that's like skeptical towards the government is probably going to be rated pretty high for me. If it's questioning science, maybe not so much.
We're not studied up. We're just a couple of uneducated rednecks out
Couple
here.
of blue-collar men with blue-collar jobs, driving truck, mowing lawn.
Hearts bigger than our brains. 9/11, number 2.
So that theory is that it was not terrorists who hijacked the planes to crash into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and one crash landed in a field in West Virginia, wasn't it?
Yes,
Washington.
and the multiple buildings that fell, besides just the Twin Towers. Building 6, Building 7. The parts that are just in the very corner, little bunny holes of Google. Is there anything... I listen to a lot of conspiracy theorist podcasts, and a lot of these dudes that talk about this stuff, they have made the content for it. They have, or had, YouTube channels talking about it, but then their videos get throttled or just taken down completely, and their channels canceled.
I actually, damn, this must have been, this is probably back in 2008, 2007. I actually saw a documentary about this, about the 9/11. And so they were, so to get back to what the conspiracy theory is, it is that it was not the terrorists, it was an inside job. It was pretty much the Bush administration. They orchestrated these events to lead to the crashing of the planes so that terrorists could get framed, and that would give the government approval by the American people to go to war overseas.
There's also pieces of the story that don't necessarily line up with the mainstream version of it, such as, the debris that was left over was inconsistent with how it would be, especially with the Pentagon specifically. The debris was much less than what would be expected from a plane crash.
It was almost like there's this V-shaped indentation, but it wasn't like there was computers still intact.
Yes.
Yeah, so The point I was getting at is in like the late 2000s I actually saw a documentary about this at the church I used to attend that was already kind of fringy. It was a group of people that it was pretty culty. They questioned everything and disbelieved the government. So it was maybe somebody from the church who did this, but somebody put these DVDs on everybody's windshield of this documentary called The Beast Is Here. I believe the documentary, I know it featured Alex Jones. I don't know if it was by Alex Jones. But basically the theme of the whole documentary is centered around the 9/11 conspiracy.
We also have the controlled demolition theory, which that's the camp that I'm in. Of just watch. Okay, so do it for yourself. Look up 100 videos of a demolition project on a skyscraper or a big building. And then look up the 9/11 footage, and it is exactly the same. It's the same kind of explosion, the same kind of straight down, controlled fall with minimal damage to anything around it. And there's also people that claim, upon seeing the aftermath of these attacks, that some of the structural components of the building, like the big I-beams, looked like they were cut. Not necessarily that they got crinkled or melted or burned or bent, but cleanly cut in multiple places. And there's
I've heard it said before that they weren't even airplanes to begin with. They were like
holographic projections.
No, I heard missiles.
Oh.
Yeah, because like in one video when it's about to crash in, you see like this flash on the tip of the nose of the airplane.
You also see the nose of the airplane poke out the other side of the building in one of the videos, but it doesn't keep going. It just stops there and then disappears. It's sus, dude. You want to see the video? We'll look one of them up.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude. And there's also people that say that there was a thermal paint applied at some of the structural pieces of the building on the ground floors. Mm-hmm. Explosive, flammable white paint of some kind.
Oh, I see.
And it was like they left in a hurry, too, because all the buckets were still left there. It wasn't a cleaned up, finished job.
Don't you think, like, how many people, though, would have had to be involved in this to orchestrate this event? That's the big thing that's always done it for me, is that there would be a lot of people that would have to be signed into this conspiracy to orchestrate it.
Well,
people's deaths faked.
They also had way less people in those buildings those days, too. I forget the reason for it, but the population was way, way lower than it would have otherwise been. Almost as if some people knew something was going to go down, right?
Right.
And then, there's also a way to keep people quiet. And I didn't put this on the list, but like Epstein Island, right? Mm-hmm. Just get some kind of dirty blackmail on somebody.
Right.
And they're your puppet. Especially when...
I'm talking about, though, like, what about the civilians, the people on the airplane?
I don't think...
Who are recognized to have died.
I don't think they were none the wiser, and they were... or I don't think they were any the wiser. I think they're just the unfortunate casualties.
So you do believe it was an airplane?
Okay. Now we're digging into some fringe stuff. 'Cause I remember this one dude, and I can't verify anything, but he said something about there being an empty plane with a bunch of razor blades cut into the floor, cut in the carpet, and there was a little hatch or something where things could have got loaded into the plane. They had an FBI unit investigate the hangar where it was parked because somebody opened their yap about it, and they deemed it nothing out of the ordinary. Continue on, life is normal. Mm-hmm. But maybe it was the pilots. if I'm not mistaken. They just noticed it was weird, and their normal plane that they haven't been in for a while all of a sudden has a square cut in the carpet and freaking box cutters sitting there. Okay, so the video that I easily found on YouTube before is like way down the list. There's a million things that are newer, posted more recently, that unfortunately, or
Were they put there?
has the video been taken away? Has it been censored?
We may never know.
Has the government put their fingerprints on yet another source of
Information.
yes?
So on a scale 1 to 10 in believability, where are you at with this one?
That it was an inside job. I don't know, man. I'm thinking like 8.
Okay. I'd say more 5 for me. Again, I could see them doing that. Hitler did that. There's a government building that Hitler burnt down and framed the Jews in order to, or maybe it was the Polish, in order to go to war. And so, I think the nature of government is, power corrupts and corrupt people get attracted to power. So, I'd say the only thing that makes me skeptical about it is, the civilians that would have to be in on that conspiracy. So, I would say for me, 5 out of 10.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. All right. So with that, next up, we have flat or round or hollow Earth.
Oh my God.
Which one do you think that we live on?
I believe the Earth is round. It's a sphere.
An oblique spheroid.
Mm-hmm.
As Neil deGrasse Tyson would say.
Yep. I feel like, is there anybody who doesn't... Are there people who aren't religious that believe that we live on a flat Earth? What would they believe that... That's just how the aliens made it?
I think most of the people that believe in flat Earth point to the Bible as partial evidence, actually.
Yeah, that's why I say that.
Although all the Christians that I know believe in round Earth, so...
It's a growing movement, but it's still very fringe, the flat Earth community.
I think it's a huge movement now, dude. It's gotten a lot of traction.
And, I'd say it's
So
probably been going on for a long time, but in the last 10 years, it's become super noticeable.
I went down this rabbit hole deep because when I was first exposed to conspiracy theories through my interest in learning about aliens, that just opened the Pandora's box of everything else. One of the most interesting to me, personally, of which was the flat Earth theory. The one that I like more is the hollow Earth theory, because that is just cooler, Journey to the Center of the Earth, Jules Verne, shout out to that book. Mid-1800s, I believe.
Really? That's when that was written?
Yeah. Tells the story of a researcher and his nephew going to explore an opening or a cave of some kind in a mountain in somewhere up by Greenland or Iceland or Norway or Sweden, somewhere up there, northeastern area from us. And they just go down. It just tells the story of them exploring and the difficulties they face and running out of water and running out of light as they went deep in there, and then eventually finding this underground lake that was the size of an ocean, seeing a whole different sun and an ecosystem.
Is this known to be fiction, or was the author saying that this?
No, this is a fictional work.
Okay,
It's just a story. It's the one that Hollow Earthers go with.
The movie that was made, are you familiar with that?
I haven't seen it. Well, I did, but it was so long ago that I don't really remember it.
I would presume it's based off from the book, though.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right, hell yeah. I'll watch that tonight.
Let's watch it together.
Yeah.
Have a date.
Maybe we will.
We can hold hands.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, me either. Anyway, so flat Earth. I went down that rabbit hole deep. I like wanted the best possible argument because I was the skeptic coming in. It's like, okay, I'm a round earther because of, I'll make the flat earthers happy because of round earth propaganda that's been taught to me since I was born, basically.
Yeah.
Round earth, revolution around the sun, moon revolves around us. Everything's hundreds of thousands of miles away from each other, different galaxies, light years away. And I was like, I want the most convincing argument. And I want the guys to convince me of this so that I can have this weird thing to go show to other people and say, look, you're wrong about the Earth. It's freaking flat, and here's why. But they never convinced me.
No.
Dude, Man, dude, I feel like they get angry, flat earthers, when you start questioning them. So, like, for example, Mark Sargent and Eric Dubé are kind of the main teachers on the subject. They have the books that, like, you gotta read their stuff. So, I got their books and I read their stuff. And now I'm angry that I gave them my money.
Oh, man.
But the arguments are such as if you shine a laser, okay, and you have it 3 feet above the ground, and you shine it miles and miles away, it'll still be 3 feet above the ground.
It'd have to be in the desert.
I think they did it over water.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, I wasn't no expert in school, but I at least paid a little bit of attention in physics class, where we learned about this phenomena known as refraction. And if you've ever shined a laser through a glass sphere, it's you don't have to be an expert to tell that the laser is coming out the other side at a different angle than what it went in, because it refracts around. But anyway, that's one argument that is like stated as absolute concrete fact that the Earth is flat in the book, because, well, if the Earth is curved, then the laser ought to be higher above the ground all these miles out. Apparently the curvature is about 6 inches down per 1 mile of distance.
Okay.
And, well, refraction kind of debunks that, I think. And they point to some references.
How do they explain airplanes in the flights around the world? Like,
ooh, that one's fun.
yeah.
Do you know the United Nations logo? I'm going to show it to you right now.
All right.
It is actually a map of the flat Earth. Looking at it as if you were looking straight down at the North Pole, and instead of you only seeing the northern hemisphere because the southern hemisphere wraps back in below the equator, it basically just continues that map outwardly from the North Pole being in the center. So Antarctica ends up being around the perimeter.
Yeah. It's ice wall around the world.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that this United Nations logo uses that map. Oh, that's it right there.
Okay, I guess I could see that.
They all say, well, why is this the freaking logo? It must mean something. Which, I'm not going to deny the underlying or subliminal messages in corporate logos out there. But on this map, okay, certain flights, and this is a pretty interesting take, certain flights around the southern hemisphere take routes that on a globe Earth kind of wrap around, like if you're flying from like Chile to South Africa, right? They'll stop in like Brazil and then fly over to Africa. Maybe stop in Western Africa first, and it's very out of the way. It's like a horseshoe pattern almost if you look at it on the round Earth map. But when you look at that route on a flat Earth map, it's almost a perfectly straight line. And you know who we should have actually had to discuss this is Austin.
Is he a flat earther?
No, but he's a pilot.
Oh, yeah, no, he would be great for that. Let's have, like,
Let's call him.
could you have him over and like record him giving an explanation on this and include it in the episode? He's probably at church, Doug.
What's up?
Hey, you're not at church, are you?
No.
Hey, Austin.
Me and Isaiah are both here, and we're recording a podcast, which I cannot put you on if you don't want. But we were discussing flat Earth, and I was telling him about the flight paths that people take around the southern hemisphere. How on a globe map, like a flight from, like, say, the south, like Cape Horn to South Africa would wrap up through Brazil and then into Western Africa and then back down to South Africa. Even though I'm not sure if that's for fuel up reasons or what, but on a flat Earth map, that would be like a straight line. And I remember I talked to you about it before, and I forgot the explanation that you gave.
Oh. I'm driving right now. I don't know if I can get all the way into it at the moment. How long you're recording right now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You're live.
I'm about to be sitting at the airport for a couple of hours, but that's like an hour away, so.
That's all good.
Hold on. Let me switch headsets and we'll go for it.
Alright, cool.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
So certain flights make a little less sense on the round Earth map because they go around, these large sweeping horseshoe patterns that on a flat Earth map are just a straight line. And we're discussing how ridiculous flat Earth is, and that's just one of the points that they point out to prove flat Earth that I was trying to trash, but I couldn't really.
Needed to call in some backup.
Yeah, we needed an expert on flight paths.
I'm not entirely an expert on those long distance ones, but I do have a little experience with the Great Circle routes, and I have the software that makes that we use for flight planning for either situation. So, what was an example route that we were looking at?
The one I remember, they were saying Cape Horn, which is like the south tip of South America, up to Brazil, over to West Africa, down to South Africa.
Okay, so
on a flat Earth map,
my
it's almost
thing,
a perfectly straight line. And I didn't know, maybe it's for fuel up reasons, minimizing the distance over ocean travel.
that is a factor that gets missed a lot of times, is that aircraft have to meet a certain requirements to, like, distance from suitable diversion airports when it comes to airline flights. So you'll often see that on some Pacific flights where it would make, it would appear to make sense for them to be taking a more direct route, but they have to remain within a certain distance of possible diversions.
Interesting. I wonder if I can find any other examples. That was just the one I came up with off the top of my head.
So, you said Cape Town, South Africa was the route you were looking at, the first point?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just kind of building a route here on my flight planning software so I can get a picture in my mind. While I'm driving, I do not endorse this practice. Don't try it at home. Cape Horn, or whatever it was, to, what was the next airport?
It would have been up in Brazil somewhere on the East Coast, probably like Sao Paulo or Rio or something.
I don't have my Brazil geography down trying to find that. Okay, I think I got it here. So on a globe map here, from Cape Horn to, you know what, that might not even be the right, it's the east coast of Brazil. Salvador, I guess, is what I happened to pick when I dropped my finger down. That is a straight line across the South Atlantic. However, are there any airline flights between those two airports that you can look at and see what route they actually take? Because sometimes you have people talking about, how would you, theoretical flights where you can't look up a flight tracker and see where they actually went.
I see.
Where was the location?
Something that plays into this as well is that there are very few airline hubs in the southern hemisphere. So most of the time, if you're flying from the southern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, you're going to go through a hub in the northern hemisphere somewhere. So it gets a little tricky as to whether an airline could make that trip or not, because sometimes you don't have the data of an airline actually making that flight.
Interesting. All right, we'll play around then with punching some flights in.
Yeah, check out the website flightaware.com, and they have a feature where you can punch in 2 airports, and it will show you recent flights between those 2 airports, and you can click on them and see exactly what route they took. It would only apply for direct flights, so if that makes sense.
Yep. FlightAware?
FlightAware. Yeah.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Have fun at the airport.
I shall try.
All right. I'll see ya.
Thanks, Austin.
All right. FlightAware. Search for flight. Where you want to go? We said Cape Horn. Cape Horn. Well, freaking fine then. Let me find something else. South Africa. Cape Town. I'm
the
an
concept,
idiot, dude.
The concept of a flat Earth, that would contradict the laws of space. The Earth is round because everything in space is moving in a circle, right?
Right.
So the flat Earthers, they believe the sun is moving. That's the only thing in space that moves. What is the flat Earth view on space? Because I know they don't believe in gravity. At least the flat Earthers that I've spoken to do not.
Well, that's because the Earth is just a flat frisbee shooting upwards through space so quickly that it keeps all of us glued to the top.
What are the variety of flat, other than Abrahamic Judeo-Christian flat Earthers? Are there any other flat Earthers who are theists, as in they believe in a god or something
Yeah, God set the foundations of the earth.
Because I know a lot of it is borrowed from the Bible, in particularly descriptions in Genesis and the book of Job.
It talks about the firmament also, which
It's believed that there's not a glass dome, but an ice dome around the flat Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, the firmament keeps us safe from whatever's beyond it. The 4 pillars of the earth. Okay, God set the foundations of earth. There's a cornerstone to the earth, so it must have a bottom somewhere. Mm-hmm. I think there was some kind of end times prophecy belief about the 4 horsemen or something.
In the book of Joshua commands the sun to stand still.
Yes, so, that's probably the coolest story in the Bible.
That's one if there's say 2 fundamentalist Christians, but one's a flat earther and one is a round earther. The flat earther is going to use that in the book of Joshua to say that it's a flat earth, because the flat earth is supported by the idea that the sun moves and not the earth. Do they also believe the sun is a flat disk? Everything's a flat disk?
I'm not sure what the sun's supposed to be, but I've seen models for the sun and the moon both spinning around the top of our Earth that don't make perfect sense, but it's pretty close to what we actually observe in day and night cycles.
So I haven't ever looked into any of the big flat earth speakers, but I've had a lot of grassroots conversations with in the Hebrew roots Messianic movement. There's tons of flat earthers. There's tons of them. Because, the foundation of the Messianic Hebrew roots movement is that the church has lied to us, and we need to question everything. So, oftentimes with them, that segues into questioning science, and is the earth round or flat? And I know a decent amount of flat earthers, and, some of them, they're gonna have different, takes on what's going on. One flat earther that I spoke to one time, when I asked them about planes flying around the world, they said that there's portals on the ice walls.
Stargates, bro.
Yeah.
The flat earthers believe in stargates. Nice.
So it gets definitely it would be a cool basis for a sci-fi movie. It's just the movie, we're going off the premise that the earth is flat.
Dude, I don't know if that would be a good, if it would fall into conspiracy theory or not, but we should talk about Stargate portals sometime.
Oh, hell yeah. Dude, I'm down to talk about anything.
There was supposed to be one in Sedona, out north of Phoenix, where I lived.
And you never went looking for it?
I never went looking for it. I've been in that wilderness before, wandering around, trying not to get bit by snakes. So the story goes, there was these two explorers going out west, and they ran across an Indian chief. And
when did this happen?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Probably in the days of the early colonial settlers in the West, so early 1800s,
all right,
maybe.
Long time ago.
And this Indian chief told them to be careful. There's strange things out here. And that's about all he said. And after some hours of prying and questioning, finally the chief opened up and said, well, there's this gate that you must not go through, because upon entering it, you will enter into a spirit realm, and you cannot come back. So these explorers are like, okay, whatever, wacko. They keep exploring, and what do they find? They find a door with some obscure cryptic symbols around it. And they say, hey, this is that gate that he was talking about. They couldn't see what was on the other side. It's unclear as if it was just black, or if it was just a wall, or what it was. But they found this gate, and one of them walked right into it because he wanted to explore. So that's why they were out there. Well, he went in, and the other explorer kept calling out to him to come back, but the guy never came back, and he sat there and waited for him all night, and he never returned. So he went back to the Indian chief and told him, and the chief was like, your friend was unwise. He's not coming back. He's gone forever. And supposedly that took place in the mountainous area around Sedona, Arizona.
So today, is it believed that is it just there, or is the government securing it and guarding it?
There's a museum that kind of has a couple displays to the lore, just rocks with a symbol on them here and there, one or two of those.
I would think if such a thing existed, the government would have found it and got their hands on it. They'd be definitely it's nothing that somebody could stumble across when just trotting about through the woods.
There's I heard a story around.
There's definitely
a similar base to Area 51, where the airplanes, when they would come in and land, the ground that looked totally normal would actually open up into a runway strip, and the plane would land on it and travel angled into the ground, and then the Earth would cover back up over it. So who knows what kind of technology they have? I mean, dude, they say the government's 40 years before us in technology, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I mean, think about AI for a second. The AI that we have is so realistic today that, like, it's hard sometimes to know the difference between what's AI and what's real. With the people that know what they're doing with it, like
they
there's
usually
videos,
don't.
But
There's certain things they don't get right, like the eyes, the fingers.
this is 2025. So you tell me in 1985 the government had the ability to make AI like we have it now?
Who knows? I don't know.
Dude.
I don't know. I don't know about AI. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
Now, granted, this is post-internet and computers.
Right.
And when the hands of the common people get on some technology like that and they start getting educated in it, they
AI
can do
in particular,
a lot.
I'm doubtful of. But no, they definitely probably had their forms of AI. Maybe not as complicated as now. I definitely believe they have like technology though that was far past our understanding.
So the other theory that goes with flat Earth is hollow Earth. I think that's the camp I fall into. So if you have
what would you rate flat Earth in terms of believability?
0.
Yes, same. It's gonna be a 0.
I'm sorry.
It might be my only one on this list that's a 0, but again, I do believe in science. Flat Earth seems very unscientific.
So a big argument that flat earthers use is you can't prove that the Earth is round. So don't ask me to prove that it's flat. You have to take it in faith and look at the evidence that's there. However, with that being said...
What if you don't want to take it in faith?
I don't think the evidence is as good as round Earth.
You shouldn't have to take... Never mind, I'm not going to say that.
But I've never, gotten into space to get a good view of the Earth and whatever giant's holding it on his fingertip. Who knows? Who knows?
I bet it's on the back of a turtle.
That's an Eastern religion, actually, isn't it?
I think Hinduism.
Okay, so hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth.
Let's start with
that one is one I will say I know nothing about, so educate me.
I'm not necessarily going to say hollow as the word would imply, but with vast networks of systems, caverns the size of continents, as certain explorers, Robert Byrd, have pointed out. So, if you take a basketball and fill it with sand, halfway full, and then you put it on a wood lathe and spin it around, what's the sand going to do on the inside? It's going to all travel towards the edge, right? Okay. So there's a big hollow space in the middle. Now, if Earth is tons and tons and tons of dirt spinning around at the speed that they say we're spinning at thousands of miles per hour, don't you think that centrifugal force would start to fling some of it out from the middle and make some cave systems, some hollow spaces? Also, so assuming the theory of gravity is accurate, that all matter attracts itself, you have all this mass sucking itself into the middle. Mm-hmm. But the centrifugal force flinging some back out to the edges. That would explain our spinning ball Earth with spaces on the inside, large spaces. And it doesn't take a ton of space for entire ecosystems to exist. There's this one cave in China, South China, that is like 800 square miles, cubic miles. And it has its own weather system inside, its own clouds, its own rain, its own just totally different ecosystem than the world around it. It's South China somewhere, I forget the specific city it's outside of, village it's outside of. But they have weather phenomena in the cave that only exists in the cave. unaffected by what's outside the cave. And that's just a little cave that they found. Like, who knows what else is out there, how big stuff is. And that almost leads into the next conspiracy theory, actually, that I have, which is lizard people.
Oh my God.
Which are supposed to are underground dwelling. Actually, also in that same cave in China, they talk about these lizards that come out and are violent to the people, and they say never to go in this cave because you'll be killed or eaten or captured or something. There's in South Brazil, there's caves like that too, where they're closed up, locked up with stones, because what comes out of it is evil. It's lizard beings that'll come and kidnap you and drag you into the depths of the cave. South Brazil.
Aren't they like that's the reptilian elite, right?
The elite, yes, shape-shifting alien or shape-shifting reptilians, like Queen Elizabeth.
Are they different from the violent lizards in South China?
They're apparently different breeds of the same.
Because I was gonna say, if they're elite, wouldn't they violence and bloodshed be above them?
Who the frick knows? I don't know any to ask. Queen Elizabeth supposedly was one.
I've heard that.
With the ability to shape shift, and they're the true ruling elite class in their cabal that oversees the operations of the world, all for the workings in the whims and desires of some grander godlike being who tells them what to do, and they manipulate society through the power that they are given through this god.
And so, like, okay, so there's obviously a lot of, like, fundamentalist Christians that believe in flat Earth. Are there many, do you know if there's many Christians who believe in flat Earth? And what is, like, do they believe in the lizard people? And do they have, like, a biblical take on it? Like, they're fallen angels, demons?
The lizard people. Maybe, perhaps, they are what's the offspring of the angels and people? Nephilim. Nephilim. Perhaps they are simply Nephilim.
Because I know that you have a lot of conspiracy theorists in the Messianic movement, and there's a decent amount of flat earthers. I do believe I had spoke to a handful that believed in the reptilian elite, and that was kind of like their take on it, is that there is a reptilian elite, but they're like Nephilim. They're like fallen angels. Or
perhaps simply demons. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, that's what demons are supposed to be, is the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, isn't it?
What? Repeat that.
Isn't that what demons are supposed to be, is the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim after they die?
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of demonology, but that is a view that
what are some other views that I'm not familiar with? You know any off the top of your head?
I know some in Judaism. It's like, it's believed that when, like, you jerk off, you spill your seed, that, like, your wasted seed creates a demon.
What the heck?
Yeah, and they believe, like, Judith comes to you in the night. She's like...
Judith?
Did you know who Judith is?
Not Lilith?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Lilith.
Oh, okay.
Lilith comes to you in the night, who is Adam's original wife, but she refused to have sex with...
No, Adam didn't want to have sex with her on top.
Yes.
Because it was giving the woman too much control, so she left him.
It was considered unnatural.
Yeah. So then he found Eve. Or God made him Eve
she ran away, and it says she sprouted up wings and flew up to, like, the heavens. And
what says that?
I guess been flying.
By the way,
that would be like the...
I've heard it, but I don't know why.
That would be like Jewish... it'd be like in the Talmud. That's like the Jewish, demonology, folklore, and whatnot.
Is the Talmud, like, big?
Talmud is huge. Talmud is compiled of, it's like the oral traditions of the rabbis, so it's going to contain Mishnah.
Let's read it. Talk about it.
Read the Talmud. a couple blue-collar guys from St. Joseph County, Michigan, just discussing Talmud on their podcast. Hell yeah, I'm totally down for that. The Talmud is a huge book, but
So it wouldn't be like read it next week and talk about it.
oh, it would probably take at least 5 years. It'd take a long time. It's a big book.
How do you even remember all that?
Do it daily.
In 5 years,
I think
you'd
the
forget what
Talmud,
you read at the beginning of it.
I think the
time you finish.
Talmud is bigger than the Bible. I think the fastest I've ever read the whole Bible is 3 months.
You read it or listened to it?
Read it.
Man, I could listen to it.
I haven't read it in
That's
years.
impressive.
Nowadays, I just listen to it. But back when I was a believer, I would religiously read it, like at least twice a day when I got up in the morning before I went to bed at nighttime. And when I first started, that's like probably the longest it took. It took like 6 months. But once I got in a habit and like I had like the amount of chapters dialed in that I would usually do. But anyway, that's kind of diverging from the...
What would be longer, the Bible or the writings of Josephus?
The Bible.
Okay.
Yeah. Josephus, well, it depends because Josephus wrote a handful of different books like the Antiquities of the Jews, I think he wrote one, the Book of Wars, perhaps. The Wars of Antiquities. He wrote and he was a Hellenized Jew who became a historian. So Josephus actually, he was a zealot. He was part of a sect of Judaism that revolted against the Romans. And they believed that this political figure named Bar Kokhba, Judah Bar Kokhba, he was claiming to be the Messiah. And so they believed he was going to overthrow the Roman Empire. They try to do that, doesn't work out, and then Josephus, he gets captured by the Romans, and in order for him to stay alive, he becomes a historian for them, giving the Romans the history of the Jews.
Speaking of old texts, have you ever read The Shepherd of Hermas?
Read, no. I am familiar with it. It's like a New Testament book that's not in the New Testament, right?
It's almost like a Old Testament prophetical book.
Okay.
Dude. So I've been like listening through the Apocrypha just for funsies. And there's a lot, there's extra Psalms, an extra chapter in Acts, extra epistles, like 3rd Corinthians and whatnot. And I got to this Hermas guy, the Shepherd of Hermas.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so fascinating. That was a fun little story. It was weird, though. I can see why they took it out.
Give us an overview.
I'm not through with it completely yet, but so far what has happened was this shepherd was visited by some woman in an angelic form who said that he was living in sin by lusting after some other woman. And then he gets visited by this other elderly woman who's an angel who says, "That was not an angel of the Lord that spoke to you. However, you are living in sin. You need to repent." And it's like, it doesn't even say how to know the difference or like why or who it was or anything.
Just says no, they weren't.
Yeah. And this first time this old lady shows up to him, she's sitting, right? And then she reappears to him a second time and she's standing. And she reappears to him a third time and she looks young, but her hair is still old. And then this other guy, angel, appears to him, telling him how to get his life right, and Hermas is just asking all kinds of questions to him, and because he's always said he's a righteous man and he wants answers, and he's told by this angel guy that he's a man of faith in God's sight, and that he is asking out of line for answers to some of these questions, because he's like, there were righteous men living long before you who have suffered much more than you, like your fathers, Abraham and Jacob, who wrestled with God, and even Adam himself with his struggles. All were men of faith, and you are so young and you don't know anything yet. Who are you to ask these things? And anyway, he's like, because you are favored in God's sight, I'll tell you anyway. And just gives them some clarities on some sin issue questions, kind of sounding New Testament-like.
Okay.
And that's really as far as I've gotten so far. It's just really strange. Oh, and the dude angel was like, even the appearances of this woman to you have significance. Like, she was sitting the first time, she was without purpose and tired. She's standing the next time because there's work to be done in the church age. There's a ministry to be done. And she's...
It used the word church. It was definitely...
Oh, it uses church. This
Okay,
woman
yeah.
says that she is the church.
Oh, I
which
see.
begs some questions about the church and Jesus, you know? If Jesus is the church and we're the church.
Based on like the description of that, I feel like that was probably a book recognized by like the Gnostic Christians. The Gnostic Christians believed salvation was attained through understanding the hidden knowledge that Jesus came to reveal, to where like most fundamentalist Christians today, the belief is salvation's attained by faith alone in Jesus and his sacrifice. The Gnostic Christians, it was centered around hidden knowledge being revealed.
At what point in the seeking out of hidden knowledge do you become saved?
I don't know. I imagine it's something like enlightenment. That would be a cool subject for us both to study and do an episode on, like the history of the Gnostic Christians.
How does occultism and Freemasonry apply to that too? Because they're all about climbing the different levels of Masonry up until you get to
it's about
enlightenment at the top.
Yeah, for sure. I know with the Freemasons, I think the Freemasons are kind of like, it's agnostic in a certain sense to where you have to believe in a god, but like it's not a particular god. So back to Hollow Earth.
Lizard people and Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth and lizard people. I would say, I don't know how I want to rate Hollow Earth, because like the word Hollow Earth and what you're instantly brought to think of about there being a vast like world, like in certain movies, like
in the middle.
Have you seen the new the like Godzilla versus King Kong movies?
No, I'm not a big movie person.
Yeah. No,
I'm sorry.
I haven't actually.
Probably
that makes
angering
sense.
a lot of people by all the stuff that I haven't seen.
I don't watch a whole lot of movies nowadays so much, but when I do watch a movie, I enjoy it. You watch Supernatural.
I love Supernatural. Yeah. That's my favorite show, for sure.
About the only thing you watch. But...
Americana classic through the whole thing, while still addressing issues of the supernatural. All aspects. Demons, angels, Nephilim, Leviathan, werewolves,
Makes
everything.
you think
Wraiths.
about... It'd be the writer of that show would be a cool person to look into. Like
Eric Kripke.
Yeah, he must be like this big like cultural buff on just like folklore and...
I do have one beef with that show. They personify everything. Meaning like everything is a human.
Oh, yeah.
Everything appears in human form. The Leviathan, for crying out loud, was like a dragon, dude, by all, like a sea monster.
Yeah,
is how it sounds.
I noticed that, or like that one where it was like books or stories from Brothers Grimm coming to life, and then the werewolf, or the big bad wolf, was just like
a guy.
This angry guy with kind of sharp-looking teeth.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it was a CW show. They didn't have a large budget on CGI.
They even had one episode where they
just gave a guy some fake teeth and was like, look angry.
Yeah, the Nephilim was just a guy named Jack.
What?
Just a kid named Jack.
Jack.
The freaking show has like, it's really good, and we're rewatching it right now. Like the first 5 seasons, it's building up Like, it starts out these two bros just looking for their dad, who's what they call a hunter. He hunts these evil, supernatural things to keep people safe, to save people. The two brothers, that guy's son, do the same thing while looking for their dad. Long story short, dad dies. But they continue the hunting and find out that they're part of a bigger picture. They're supposedly both playing huge roles in the apocalypse. So big that I'm going to give spoilers, but Sam, the younger brother, dies. Dean makes a crossroads deal with the demon to sell his soul to bring his brother back. He only gets 1 year to live. They spend a year trying to figure out how to save Dean, but they can't do it. He dies and goes to hell and gets tortured by demons. He gets pulled out by an angel because he has these purposes to fulfill in prophecy.
Okay.
And eventually they get to the apocalypse, and Lucifer escapes from the cage that he's locked in and tries to bring the destruction of the world, but the brothers succeed in the end.
Does it ever show Lucifer?
Yeah, he's a human.
Does he look like, how does he look?
He just has red glowing eyes, dog. That's it. Literally.
So Satan himself, like...
He's possessing a body.
That's when you have to, like, put the full CGI...
Thank
full
you.
budget. It's like when you're doing the Prince of Darkness himself, you have to, like... Make it. He's supposed to be the embodiment of evil, the root of all evil, the purpose behind the tear, the salt in your eye, the blisters on your hands, the pain that you experience. And he's just this guy with red glowing eyes.
He's just possessing a dude. That's it. But they do succeed. There is good CGI in parts of it, especially as it goes on. 'Cause this thing ran from like 2005 to 2020. Yeah. Real long run.
So for its time.
Yeah. The CGI, like they have, like this portal gets opened up where they send Lucifer back to the cage. And stuff like that's really realistic, but the characters and the monsters themselves are actually just humans. Sam ends up getting sucked into the cage with Lucifer accidentally, along with Gabriel, the archangel. So it's kind of, it's got some weird biblical aspects, weird occult aspects, everything in one. And that's like, I think that's season 5, how they end it, out of 15 seasons total. Season 5 ends with Sam getting sucked into the cage. And after that, I feel like it kind of falls apart a little bit. Because those first 5 seasons, like, stuff makes sense, you know? Like, just, they actually have to reload their guns, for one, you know? They're wiping fingerprints off of places they're investigating so when the FBI comes and checks it out, they don't find their prints later. Like, stuff makes sense. It's logical. After that season 5, I feel like that's the line where stuff is like, why are they doing that? Like, why do they do that?
Did you ever watch Lost?
Ooh, that's on my list to watch, but I have not yet seen it.
Get into.
I know I would.
Like, on Lost, I feel like it went on too long and they had too much going on. And I feel like maybe Supernatural suffered the same effect to where, like, they just had so much backstory and so much going on to where sometimes if a show like that runs too long, I think things get sloppy.
I will give them credit where it's due, though, is that their storylines with the character development that they have going throughout, it's like, it's a 10 out of 10.
And the concept, especially like back then in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, it's totally original, too.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there. I mean, you know.
And it's like, I like that vibe.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, it's like a badass vibe. It's like really like...
I Dream of Jeannie.
It's really like doing justice for like people who are like into supernatural, obscure things like us.
Oh, it's the show, dude.
Cultural folklore and...
The reason I like it so much is because it's great storytelling. The camera work, the production quality is 10 out of 10. And I like seeing that. Good. Having
Jensen
a little
Ackles.
bit of experience in everything video and audio, I appreciate a good production, and that Supernatural does that for me.
And it, you know, like, you can get past kind of the cheesy acting on the CW actors, you know, walking down the hallway, talking there.
I don't think Supernatural's cheesy acting. I think it's genuinely good.
I think most shows on CW have.
You know, they even
Jeez,
personify God. He's a human too. A short
What's he
guy
look like?
named Chuck.
Short guy named Chuck.
He's a writer. He has
Charles.
yeah. He has a sister named Amara. She's like the hottest girl in the show.
Well, you would hope so.
And well, compared to Chuck, who's like this little short, weird-looking dude, it's a big contrast. Amara is the darkness.
Okay.
She's also a human.
That is like the darkness that hovered over the face of the deep. She like represent
That's
chaos.
the question that I always asked. She always would say that before there was light, there was darkness, and after light, there will be darkness again.
She probably like represents the primeval chaos.
Yes, there's even okay, dude. Death is a freaking person. Death is a human. Like, come on. And then they killed Death.
They didn't even do like the Grim Reaper.
There were Reapers. Reapers are like, in the show, when you die, your spirit's there by your body, and you're like, holy frick, that's my body, I just died. And then a Reaper comes, and it's like, hey, come with me. I'm taking you to the other side. What's on the other side? Oh, I can't tell you. You just have to come with me. If you don't go with her, you'll just stay on the earth as a spirit, and you'll eventually go crazy and mad and start killing people, because that's what happens over time.
Oh, and is that their explanation for like
Ghosts.
ghosts? Okay. We could do like a whole episode reviewing like a season, like all seasons, different episodes reviewing seasons. That definitely.
I could go on about this show for a very long time.
Because that is something I would like to delve into aside from like books, reviewing books is like, let's just like have an episode talking about a show or a movie.
There's a guy, Isaac Weishaupt. He's got a podcast called Occult Symbolism in Pop Culture. Or I might be butchering the name, but he does specifically that. He just points out what is like references to the occult or to the elite or whatever in a lot of popular shows.
Okay.
He did like Twin Peaks once. I think that was the most recent. And I don't know,
okay, so
really
it's kind of like conspiracy theory basis.
Oh yeah, dude. He's been on all the conspiracy theorist shows as a favorite guest of everybody because he's just so freaking knowledgeable about everything.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, before we took our cinematic segue, the reason I brought up the Godzilla versus King Kong movies is because they have like this world that's in the center of the earth, but it's like there's like open skies and it has its own sun and whatnot. And so I would say in terms of that, like in the center of the earth, I'd say no, I don't believe that.
I'm a 2 out of 10 for that.
The idea of there being vast caverns that
I'm at a 10 out of 10 for that.
like
No,
people
9.
or maybe aliens have occupied, I would say with that I'd be 4 or 5.
I'd say with the former 0. Well, 2. With the latter, probably a 9.
And then so the reptilian elite, what is that? The next one after Flat Earth?
That's what I had after it. I think we talked about it enough.
So I would say the reptilian elite, I would actually put on a higher ranking than Hollow Earth.
Come on.
Because the reptilian elite could be aliens, and like I wouldn't be.
We're gonna talk about aliens.
I wouldn't deny like the idea of like there's a possibility that aliens could be pulling the strings behind society, and they've had connection with us all along. Like maybe after we invented the nuclear bomb, and we just got too dangerous, and they. But no, probably before that though. I'm not opposed to that idea.
So what's your final rating for lizard people then?
7.
7.
6.
Ooh, man. So, we're 4 out of 10 of these things. Should we do a part 1 and part 2? Because we're at 1 hour and 11 right now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Alright. That sounds like a good idea. So, next time, we'll talk about aliens. We'll talk about pedophiles. And we'll talk about mind control. Yeah.
Right on.
So, until next time,
Keep it strange, everybody.
keep it freaking weird.
And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Don't let anybody convince you that Flat Earth is real.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, but if there's any flat earthers out there who would like to come on here and discuss that with us,
Without getting angry.
reach out to us. You can find me on Facebook,
I know I'm kind of negative
Isaiah
about it.
Danbury. You can find me on Instagram as _amazing_Isaiah. No caps.
I come down on Flat Earth kind of hard, but that's just because I gave him like the biggest benefit of the doubt that I could.
We're not gonna
Still wasn't convinced.
we're not gonna bring you on here and like that's just not our nature to try to debate. And like me and Jonathan, we believe differently on some big things, but we can always have peaceful discussion, and we'd like to carry that energy on over into this podcast.
If somebody if somebody thinks that they would be able to convince me of Flat Earth, I want to talk to you.
Yes. For sure. So,
but professionally and kindly.
find us on social media. You can find Jonathan as That One Cat Lucky or Jonathan Schwartzentruber on Facebook.
Facebook's preferable.
That One Cat Lucky on Instagram.
Don't hurt my cat account.
Follow it and give it tons of likes.
He's adorable. All right.
All
Let's
right.
wrap it up.
Peace, everybody.
Toodles.
If you would like to contact us, email us at peaceandtoodles@gmail.com. Until next time, salutations, my fellow strangers.
What will they think of next?